A couple of months ago, we talked about Bayonetta 2 being 10 out of 10. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Totes, yeah.
We just got our ninth 10 out of 10. Kevin Van Ord, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt.
Hoo-wee.
10 out of 10.
Hot
I've been
diggity.
waiting for this moment.
We have a bunch of questions from people who've sent them in asking specifics that were either mentioned in your review or not. Chris Waters, well prepared.
I'll try to stay on topic.
Before we get to the granularity, let us know what you think about The Witcher 3 in terms of the broad strokes. Why is it 10 out of 10? It's a pretty good game.
That's all right.
You played it on PS4?
10 out of 10.
The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is one of the best video games ever made.
That's what it said in the front page of Gamespot.com when I woke up this morning.
To quote Kevin Van Ord.
I really love this game. Oh God, it's still going. The comments are just popping up.
Don't worry about that. Tell us why.
I really, really love this game. I think it's the standard setter for all, not just like character-focused RPGs, but for open worlds in general. I think it's a little. I see like some people saying, you know, what's it like compared to Skyrim? I think it's a little unfair. Skyrim is a sandbox. Witcher 3 is not a sandbox. But I think in terms of character-focused open world RPGs, this is as good as it gets. It's special. And you're showing one of my very favorite scenes in the entire game, which has nothing to do with killing monsters, but is just sitting in a pub listening to the Trobarets sing. As a female troubadour.
I like it. I didn't know that word existed until right now.
Yeah, I didn't either until I played The Witcher 3, and then I expanded my vocabulary. Now I know both plowing and Trobarets.
I'm plowing now for what I've done. Your review is currently up on Gamespot.com, but a bunch of people sent in questions. Myself and Chris are going to lay them on you right now.
I'll do my best.
First one is from RV, that's at Harvey_X on Twitter. Newcomer here. Is it necessary to have played the previous installments to understand the overall plot of Wild Hunt?
No. I mean, obviously it helps somewhat. You already have some sense of connection with characters, and you already sort of know what happens. But not only does the game give you enough exposition so that you more or less know what's going on, but frankly, in the previous games, the politics ended up being a little bit abstract. There wasn't a whole lot of personal connection to them, and this game creates a personal connection, and I think it's much easier as a result to relate to what's going on than in any of the previous games.
So it's not just about the Nilfgaard and the land grabs?
I mean, it's got a lot of that stuff, but because you have such a personal connection with most of these things and you develop, if you don't have a pre-existing one, you develop them in the game, and as a result, it just sort of builds naturally. I don't think you need to know that stuff. As always, it helps, but...
Cool.
Well, let's talk about length, Van Ord. B. Cecilia LaSalle wants to know approximately how many hours did you knock into it before writing the review, and did you find yourself skipping parts or just like sort of leaving things to the side in the interest of time?
Well, yes, in a sense. I spent about 100 hours with the game, and that involved playing bunches and bunches of side stuff. Not because I was in a hurry, though. I didn't do anything because I was hurrying. I did it because I just played the game I would ordinarily play it. And I got lucky. Sunday night, I finished the story. There is one thing to note, is that the stories have, the story quests have recommended levels. So there is going to be some stuff that you do on the side just by nature. You're going to need to do that if you want to be at the right level for the story. Overall, I'd say that I bet you most people would probably get about the same in just an ordinary playthrough. But the good news is that if you don't do all of that stuff in your first playthrough, when you finish the story, you get to go back into the world and then do whatever you want. And there's a lot of stuff out there at a much higher level. Like, I think max level might be 50
I think it's 50.
Something.
What was your level?
I finished at
60.
about 30. I finished at about
60.
35, 36.
I think his max level is 60, but the quests level up to about 50.
Right. So there's a lot of stuff. There was stuff that was beyond my level when I finished the game.
Awesome.
And I haven't gone back simply because I want to start again. Because one of the sad news about the debug version that I played for review is no trophies.
Oh, yeah.
So I kind of want to start again and get trophies
Get that
or Steam
platinum.
achievements or whatever.
Next question is from Augustine. He asks, how much time do you play as Ciri?
I would say overall you end up playing about, 4 hours as Ciri. Most of the Ciri segments are in flashback.
Okay, let's keep it non-spoilery.
Yeah, I'm definitely keeping it non-spoilery. So most of the Ciri segments are played as a flashback.
Yeah.
And that's about it. I mean, she's not really. I mean, Geralt is the star. Most of the stuff is Ciri is just like getting a chance to know her as
Yeah.
people remember their experiences with her. That's kind of how that's set up.
Cool.
Witcher 2 had like a pretty significant learning curve for combat and sort of
Yes.
prepping and whatnot. But Christopher at the Gamer Mode has never played a Witcher game and wants to know what the learning curve is like for The Witcher 3.
Not much. The Witcher 2 was infamously difficult to wrap your head around when you tried to do the combat. Like, I died so many times in the first combat scenario in The Witcher 2. The Witcher 3 is much more fluid. I think there's actually a downside in that it can get a little easy. Like
Yeah.
if The Witcher 2 was like weirdly difficult when it starts, The Witcher 3 is actually easy enough that eventually I cranked up. There are 4 difficulty notches, and I started with the one that it defaults to, which is number 2.
Yeah.
I cranked it up to number 3, like about a quarter of the way through because things were just a little too easy.
Yeah,
for
you
me.
recommended that in your review.
I did. And then I feel like it hits about the right. It's still, you can still easily out-level the story quests if you do that, if you're doing a lot of side stuff and then find the story quests kind of easy. But the thing I like about the combat is even when things get easy, you still have to exercise a certain level of tactics because like here you see on the screen like a drowner. Like typically those attack in big waves, like as do wolves. So you have to be careful. You can't do necessarily the thing, like you can't hold down and spray fire because they're just going to keep interrupting you. So you do have to exercise different types of strategies.
And one of the things, actually, just to get off the questions for a second, that you mentioned earlier today was that in the most difficult modes, the cooldowns or the casting times for spells
casting
changes.
time changes. I like that. When it comes to difficulty levels, it's not just about the enemies have more hit points and you have more hit points. I like the fact that some of the casting speeds change. Like there's one sign where you can take over an enemy's mind, and at later levels you can make them fight for you.
Yeah.
But on the second difficulty mode, you basically just activate it right away. On the third, you actually have to hold it down until it takes root.
Cool.
So that's actually kind of nice. I really appreciated that.
Next question, Pope GTR asks, I played the past 2 games on PC and have now decided to switch to PS4. Will I miss anything by not uploading my old save files?
Okay, so this is interesting, actually. This is an interesting thing. Supposedly on the PC version, it looks at your save files and knows. I haven't been able to test that. The good news is that whether you play on PC or on consoles, you get a chance. There's this whole sequence where you talk to a king's advisor who asks you questions about the past. And in this scene, you get to decide what those Witcher 2 decisions are going to be like for you in The Witcher 3 moving forward. So if you don't carry over the save, then you have an opportunity. Remember how like Mass Effect, when it came to new platforms, had the whole comic thing where you could sort of decide? This is an in-game example of something like that, where it's like, so, just for the record, how did you do this thing?
So I played that, I did not play much of The Witcher 2 at all, so I played that and he was asking me the questions and I had literally no context for any of them. I was just kind of picking randomly. Was that the case when you were playing it as well?
Well, no, because I had made, when I played the PC version, I had already made those decisions, so I knew what they meant. And
you remembered them as well?
And I remembered them,
Yeah.
yeah. So for what it's worth, those do have a meaning.
Okay.
They do have meaning in The Witcher 3. I can't say what all of the meanings are because I only played in that particular way with my decisions.
Of course.
But I am going to be putting together, for what it's worth, a little feature that shows that scene and explains what the background is for those decisions for people that are new.
So people who want to make sure Rex is alive in The Witcher 3 can...
Exactly.
Okay.
So let's say you didn't know who Rex was. Let's say it's the equivalent of that. I'm putting together a little written thing with some video explaining what the background of these choices are for people that don't know what they mean.
Excellent.
Kevin, you played this game for 100 hours,
I did.
and now you want to go back and start anew. You mentioned trophies, but like, are you, so let's say you were playing this and you'd gotten your trophies, you'd played through 100 hours on the PS4. Is there a motivation to keep playing? Chris1337 wants to know.
Yes. One of my biggest, it's weird because on one hand, when you're a reviewer, I had about, 9 days to play this, and 100 hours in 9 days, plus on top of everything else I was doing. God, that sunset. But, one of the things is, gosh, will I ever finish this? I I don't play games in a different way for review than I would otherwise.
Yeah.
Like I basically play it. I mean, I might be working a lot of hours to do it, but I don't choose different things. I don't like pad it or I don't try to rush. I just play it like I would play it. And so, 100 hours seems about right. What was the question again?
Could you, after you completed it,
Oh,
what
did
did
I
you feel?
want to go back?
Yeah.
But that was the second half of my regret, is I got to the end, it's like, now all I want to do is run around and do all that other stuff. I look at the map and I see a trillion question marks out there that I never got to see. But it's not really about, I make this point in the review, it's not really about marking off those things. Like, okay, I did this and I'm going to 100% this thing here and whatever. It wasn't about that. It was because I knew that there would be really cool stuff out there. Like I felt like I was really missing so many other secrets. Can I tell a little story?
Go for it,
real quick. I tell this little story in the review, but I love this bit, and this gives you an idea of what it's like. So, and spoiler free, there's a decision you make where somebody you end up uncovering a crime, and this person gets sentenced to death. And you watch her get sentenced to death. She's sentenced to starve by getting tied up on an island.
Fun.
So this is a thing that may or may not happen depending on what the things you want to do on The Witcher 3. So I watched this and then it was over, right? So hours and hours later, I'm sailing through these islands. There's you get to pilot a boat and go through.
We're in the Skellig.
Yeah. And so I just randomly, I'm coming across this little island, and there's a body chained to like a stone or something. And I'm like, what the hell is this? So I get out to look, and Geralt starts talking about God. Here's the body of so and so.
Yeah.
And like that's the kind of thing that happens. Like it wasn't scripted. The game didn't force me to go out and stare at her body.
You may never have seen it.
Yeah, I may never have seen it, but I love the fact that somebody went that extra mile. They thought to themselves,
So good.
they thought to themselves, hey, this is a thing that should happen. We're not just going to make her disappear. We're going to give you the opportunity to potentially see the consequences of what you did. And even though when I did it, I felt like it was right, and I still felt like it was justified and right. That's kind of what this world is about. Even when you do what's right,
the lesser of evils.
There's always some kind of horrific consequence. And the game didn't feed it to me. It didn't force it on me. It just allowed it to happen, and I think that's very special. It's the way choices work in The Witcher 3 in general. Is it just sort of allows them to happen. It's not parading around, oh, look, you made this choice, and we're putting them all in these little boxes so that this is the choice and this is the container where this choice lives. It's just, these are just the things that happen.
I've got a couple more questions left.
Thank you for letting me
Speaking of horrific
good
consequences,
anecdote. Thank you.
Is there any consequence to playing this game on PS4? It's Humanity, friend of the show, asks, I mainly want to know how it handled technically on the PlayStation 4. Frame rate, detail, load times.
Been getting some questions about this, and so my experience, there were some bugs and some frame rate hitches and performance little things like that, and the frame rate never particularly bothered me. It drops a little bit here and there, mainly around cutscenes.
Okay.
What'll happen is a cutscene will start and it'll all jitter around, or it was rare that I was like, I was in. It doesn't really happen a lot where you're in battle and suddenly it slows down or something like that. Whenever there's action, the game maintains a really good speed for the most part on the PS4, to the point where I never thought to myself, wow, the frame rate's making this a real drag. That never happened.
Yeah.
I did run into some problems. I didn't run into what Jeff was talking about the game crashing with Gwent. I did run into 2 system crashes when I played.
In 100 hours?
In 100 hours. And I ran into, early on, there's a quest. It's your very first monster contract. I did things in a peculiar order. And what happened then is when I tried to activate the final fight, it just led to a perpetual loading screen.
Oh, fun.
So that was the biggest thing I ran into. But that's because I did things in a weird order. I've already reported that bug, and hopefully that'll get fixed. Maybe it'll even be fixed for lunch, for all I know. I don't know. But other stuff was just little stuff. Sometimes it's, there was one place where Roach, who is your horse, started just suddenly lurching. Like, for no reason, I'm just galloping through Skellig, and suddenly he's just lurching for half a second.
Oh, yeah, you got the horse lurch.
Yeah.
You can cure that with a potion.
And eventually I just quick traveled away and came back and everything was fine.
Right.
There are visual bugs, like sometimes you quick travel and then you wait for people. Like not everybody has appeared yet.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But
I have another question for you, Kevin. Thank you for your answers.
sorry, I get off.
Angel Vidal Leyva wants to know, much has been said by you, Mr. Van Ord, in florid detail about the side quests and how wonderfully they enrich the world. But let's talk about the main quest a little bit. Obviously, this is going to be a spoiler-free situation, but in terms of feeling like appropriately grand and satisfying as kind of it being designated main quest connotes, was it satisfying? Did you like it?
Oh God, I very much did actually.
Better than The Witcher 2's ending?
Yes, The Witcher 2 had a terrible, terrible ending. Let's just lay it right out there. The entire third act of The Witcher 2 felt completely unfinished.
Rushed.
And I've never really gone back to any degree and gotten to the third act to see how much that's changed for like updates and stuff. This is a very, very different situation. There's a lot of arc, and I won't give anything away, but there's a lead up to what seems like kind of not an ultimate battle, but it is a huge battle, and then after that, after this kind of explosive thing, there's just a lot of bubbling as you go to the the actual finale. Yeah. Like it just builds and builds and builds. And the game actually warns you before you get to that big battle that certain things are going to happen, and you should not go on until you're ready. Almost teasing you to make you think that you're going into the ending, but no. It pulls a Ni no Kuni then and says, no, actually, you thought this was the final battle? No, you got a bunch of more shit to do out there with the story. Just go.
So it's constantly, you're not really sure when it's crescendoing and when it's like...
Yeah, but I mean, it has definitely an arc. Like, it gets to that thing, and then that's basically almost like a catalyst, and then it just rises and rises and rises after that. But one of the things I love is just that the moments that make the story what it is are huge grand gestures and small gestures too. Like I told you, like when we saw that, one of my favorite things is that Trobert's scene where she's just singing in there. It is the quietest thing. It is so beautiful. It is so romantic, and I love that the game is not afraid to have those, to have those things, comparing with each other all the time. Like it's just a constant tug of war between beauty and violence, like all the time. That's what this world is really about, and so they really hammer that home with lots of small moments, lots of big emotions, small emotions. I loved the story a lot more than Witcher 2, which. I felt like the abstract politics weren't, I liked that story a lot, but the abstract politics weren't nearly as involving as the personal stories.
Kevin Van Ord, thank you so much for coming on and tell us all about The Witcher. One last question to get us out of here. Sam Tunley asks the question everyone wants to know. I want a short answer from you, sir. Just how many beard customization options are we talking about here, Kevin?
You only get to shave, and you only get 2 haircuts.
Fuck it.
So
10 out of 10.
There's only beardless or beard and the growth in between. The cool thing is that you get a shave.
It grows good?
Geralt grows his beard back.
Yeah. And it does.
So,
you can feel it.
Shave.
Yeah. And what's a 100-hour beard look like? So like a ZZ Top.
Just go full Gandalf there.
Eventually, it just stops growing and becomes like a very manly, gorgeous beard, of the you wish you'd never seen.
Like this.
No, this is neck beard. This is awful.
Par example.
This is awful. This graying neck beard is.
Hey man, don't talk to me about grays. I'll be casting aspersions on grays.
Yeah, I'm old. I'm easily the oldest person in this office.
Oh, Kevin, and yet you can still talk with the best of them.
Imagine that.
Listening to you talk about this game, I'm squirming with anticipation for next week.
You sure you don't just need to pee?
I may also, but I don't divulge that information on internet.
Oh, I do.